First, let's start off with the technique by which you will never improve at strumming a guitar, and that is memorizing long, complicated combinations of down and up, such as down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, you might be getting better at a single strumming pattern by that, but you're really not developing an infrastructure for which to apply to any single song strumming-wise. So ups and downs aren't really the best. I would kind of liken that to like if you're giving somebody directions to somewhere, being like, we'll take a left, a right, then a right, and take a left, and take a right. Like you don't know how long to hold things. You can maybe like stretch the words out like down, down, up, down, up, down. But you sound ridiculous, you look ridiculous. The best way to improve your strumming is by counting. Even think of the word strumming as just being a synonym for counting. And what I mean by that is just taking all your downstrokes and making them whole numbers by counting to 4 over and over again. For instance, just like 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of people think they don't have good rhythm, but anybody can do that. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. And those whole numbers will always be downstrokes no matter what you're doing. Sometimes you might skip them. 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. The only way to make it more complicated is to add notes in between those down beats, which we're going to call whole number equals a down beat. And that's by adding up strokes, because for every down you have to come up to go back down anyways. So we might as well make that part of the counting. And we're going to do that by adding the word and in between the numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4 becomes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, once you have the infrastructure of being able to count that in your head, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and just steady like this, then you can start manipulating those numbers by just adding or subtracting beats. So like 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and, which is the same as down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. But now it's a little bit steadier. And the more we can divide those beats, sometimes we'll hear like 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. That's the same thing. So that'd be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Now the one thing that this doesn't take into account is dynamics. Dynamics are a very, very important part of strumming. So for example, going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and is a super boring way to make anything sound really dull and lifeless. So what you have to do is concentrate your strum. Like for example, like we'll do a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 thing. There's not going to be any variations except for the dynamics and the spot that my down and up strokes are occurring on. So for the 1 and 2 and, or for the 1 and, I'll do like the lower register. I'm just playing like a C major 7 chord, like this, right here. So for the first one, it's going to be 1 and, which is just maybe like the A string and the D string, maybe the G string if I hit it, whatever, if I miss it, doesn't matter. 1 and then for 2 and, I'm going to hit the higher register of the strings. 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and. And already that sounds a little more dynamic. It sounds like I'm maybe playing more than just one single chord. 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and. The next thing is I'm going to add an accent to the 2. So by accent, I'm just going to hit it a little bit harder. Notice I'm not playing it as hard as I can. The dynamic accents are a really important part of articulating your strumming technique. So adding an accent to the 2 in this 1 and 2 and count is going to be 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and. Now by doing this, I'm kind of adding the second half of this strumming pattern. I'm adding a little more emphasis and it's propelling it further. So it sounds like it's going somewhere. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. I could add 2 more beats to this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can do different time signatures, like instead of counting to 4, you can count to 3. That's a pretty common one. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So now I'm putting the accent on the 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Now, we haven't omitted any down or up strokes from this. These are all just back and forth. And that's a good way to really develop a habit of assigning a downstroke to a number and an upstroke to the word and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that is the best way to be able to do more complicated strumming patterns later, just by subtracting, just kind of whiffing on the strings, like for like. So right there, what the actual pattern is 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. So notice I'm skipping the and of 1. 1, I'm still coming up. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. Notice my downstrokes are always on a whole number. The upstrokes are always on an and. No matter how I'm accenting them, no matter which parts of the chord I'm hitting, like whether it be the low chords or the high ones. A good thing to do is kind of add a low one, almost kind of like you're getting like a root chord. Like when I say a root note, just the 3rd fret of the A string here. Now it doesn't have to be as clean as just the root note. It doesn't have to be like 1, 2. That can be kind of tricky, always hitting that every time. Just aim for the root note. If you hit more of the lower part of the chord, it's fine. Low, low. Even though I'm not cleanly hitting the A string every time, it's still giving the illusion that I'm going for like a root chord thing. And it sounds like that's what I'm trying to do. Really, I'm just kind of like sloppy. So that's a lot better than thinking down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. It's essentially the same thing, but by adding the numbers, you're always counting one way or another. Those numbers you can apply to anything, even stuff like. Notice if you watch my hand, I'm always coming. Even if I'm not actually hitting it, I'm still moving in the same thing, because the whole premise of it is just going up and down and keeping a steady tempo and never stopping. If you're going like this, no matter how good your rhythm is, you're still going to be a little bit off. You need some kind of internal metronome almost. Now it helps to practice with a metronome, but if you're counting, trust that you'll be able to count somewhat on time, and you won't even need a metronome all the time. Obviously it's going to help, but maybe it's not always an ideal practice situation. But and this is something you can do. Try to count songs that you listen to, like it's on the radio or your iPod or whatever. Try to count it, and then try to apply that count. So instead of being like, okay, that sounds like a down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up. That sounds like a 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. And try to notice where the accents are, and maybe if it's a whole chord strum, or dynamically if it's maybe just a few strings, or maybe it's the middle ones. There's an amazing range of sounds you can get off of just one chord if you break that chord into little pieces of it and just kind of focus. But again, the whole premise is just always going down and up and being able to identify those down and ups with a number in your head.